Hi and welcome to 18th December and welcome to the Daily Decodes at Insights IAS. I hope everyone is doing really very well. I want to know that how are you and good morning to everyone and how is your week going, how your preparation is going. I hope everything is on the track. So let's move to important news for today. But before that, we'll go to our thought for the day. And thought for the day is be strong than your excuses. So sometimes when we put a goal in front of us or whatever your intended aim is, if it is not happening or if we are not able to work, we try to give excuses. It can be excuses from the point of view of family. It can be excuses, multiple excuses that, you did not get the right book, you did not get the right guidance or multiple things. I'm not saying that these are these are not challenges. There must be challenges. But a winner or a successful person has a positive outlook. Okay, he will be able to find the problem and the solution to it, and he would be solution oriented. Either you can live your life in excuses, or either you need to find the winnability factor. That is, you need to overcome this and start working towards your goal. So if you start working towards your goal in the terms of finding solutions and implementing solutions, then you would definitely be a winner. So you need to be much more than your excuses. You need to have courage to accept the failures, find why did these failures happen and work towards your goal. Okay. So with this wonderful thought, I would like to tell you OGP 2026 batch is starting on 2nd January 2025 under the guidance of founder and director of Insights IAS, Vinay sir, and all the details related to this course can be found on this QR code. This is the number also you can call 8069405205, and this course will include GS, CSAT plus essay. For any course, anything which you want to know about Insights IAS, which course is coming related to prelims, mains, test series, everything you can call on this number and you will get all the details. So with this, let's move to today's important news. So National Security Advisor, he is in Beijing in China to attend India-China Special Representative Talks. We had covered this earlier also in Daily Decodes that this is the continuation of what happened at 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan, Russia, where some kind of thaw happened in the India-China relationship. This engagement is happening at the Galwan area, and this is the continuation of strengthening the relationship between India and China. Finance Minister, that is Nirmala Sitharaman, asserts Q2 growth blip is temporary. She has given, 3-4 reasons that why this has happened. So we'll discuss, and she is very confident that this is just a blip. This is just an aberration. This is not continued, and it's only twice that this kind of aberration has happened. Otherwise, we have a continued growth, and we are one of the fastest, or rather the fastest growing economy in the terms of major economies. Nations open embassies engage with Syria new rulers. So the same group HTS, which used to be a terrorist designated group, today many countries are talking to it, from Europe to America. Representatives are coming. France is putting their flag and everything, and even the Italian Prime Minister would like to talk to them. So the new regime which has come, HTS, which used to have link with Al Qaeda, and today they are talking about that they will take care of the minority rights. That is their rhetoric. What they will do, only time will tell. But European countries and America is very hopeful about this new group. And for that matter, even the Russian diplomats, or the Russia as a country is also trying to get in touch with them. I'm very sure China will also soon come around. In editorial, stuck in the classroom, students, teachers, NEP 2020. So this is a wonderful editorial which talks about that number of hours, if are increased in a classroom, that will only increase the burden on the student, and the cognitive development will not happen if you just keep him in a classroom. That is just a passive learning, and teacher coming and teaching, and passive learning which is happening, that is not interactive learning. So number of hours need to be reduced. So it's a wonderful editorial which has come. We'll learn about this, and UPSC prelim impact, we'll get to know something about shadow fleet. So Russia, Iran, Venezuela deal in these shadow fleet. What is a shadow fleet? We'll talk about this in prelims impact. Rest you already know what we cover in the daily decodes. Let's move toward the first important news. Okay. Good morning everyone. Hi everyone, welcome to the session. Okay. So first important news is Doval is in Beijing to attend India-China special representative talks. If you remember, the External Affairs Minister earlier also when we were covering the news, he had said these continuation of diplomatic relationship or strengthening the diplomatic relationship, these kind of meets will continue between India and China because currently disengagement has happened, and then eventually your de-escalation will happen, then de-induction will happen, then normalization of relationship will happen. China currently wants the strengthening of relationship with India at a very fast pace. Most probably one of the reasons might be because Donald Trump has come to the power, and what kind of statement he is giving against China in terms of tariffs and trade. China would definitely be looking for a partner with which they can increase the trade. China is again the largest trade partner of India, and strengthening relationship with India is also very important for China because India also is a major country in Quad, and India also shares a very good relationship with Trump and with America. In this context, China wants to have a good relationship, and they want to start, the visas again, the flights again, Mansarovar Yatra again. But India is very cautiously optimistic because we have seen what China does. In 2018, the Prime Minister traveled to Wuhan. 2019, Xi Jinping traveled to Mamlapuram. And in 2020, April, you got Galwan. So in this entire context from 2020 Galwan, April 2020 Galwan to October 2024, these 4 years, it has been more than 4 years. It has been a long churning of events, long diplomatic talks, 21, foreign ministry talks, 17 military talks, and today at that time, with 38 levels of talks, we have been able to reach it, and that is why India is very cautiously optimistic. When the Prime Minister also met Xi Jinping at the 16th BRICS summit, when the formal meeting happened after, 2019, because 2019 it was an informal summit, but obviously both of them were meeting. So when it happened in 2024, India was again talking about mutual respect and trust, because respect is important and more even is trust, that India respected and trusted China, same is expected out of it. So these will only strengthen the relationship, how we can go forward to maintain and to strengthen the Indo-China relationship, something which was, that was the status quo which was before the Galwan crisis. That is what India and China aims to achieve, and China wants to achieve this aim even faster. So National Security Advisor Ajit Doval arrived at Beijing to participate in 23rd round of India-China Special Representative with Chinese counterpart Foreign Minister Wang Yi. If you remember, External Affairs Minister also had met him, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi has also given a very important statement that the America and China can go places, or they can strengthen their relationship, obviously, if they come together. So this is also a different news we'll cover in tidbits. The discussion aims to address the strained bilateral ties resulting from 4-year-long military standoff in eastern Ladakh, the Galwan, and now we want to move forward and strengthen it because some kind of bonhomie has come. Okay. Next is restoration of bilateral ties. Talks are focused on rebuilding relation post October 21st agreement on disengagement and patrolling in the eastern Ladakh. The dialogue is seen as a step forward, resolving tension and fostering steady diplomatic growth. Committed to leadership agreement. So again, the focus is always the PM and President Xi Jinping at the BRICS summit, Kazan, Russia. The meeting happened, honoring commitments, trust and bilateral stability. Focus is on trust, focus is on stability, focus is on building the relationship between India and China. The good steps which were taken in October, now we want to strengthen it, and that is the focus of this major meeting. So China is also talking about mutual trust and confidence. They can say this, but everybody knows what happened at Galwan and what their soldiers and army was doing. But anyway, spokesperson Lin Jian is talking about fulfilling commitments and returning to sound and steady bilateral relationship which used to happen. So again, I have used this word again and again, that cautiously optimistic is the key to work with China. Chinese economy, which has a target of more than 5%, they will not be able to achieve it. They would be somewhere around 4%. So what IMF has predicted also, that the Chinese economy is slowing down, the real estate is slowing down, domestic consumption is slowing down. So in this context also, you need to see China, how they are trying to change their game. And probably, they might be biting things, but eventually once they become powerful again in terms of monetary and other things, things might change. So discussion on address managing peace and tranquility in border areas, emphasis on finding fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. So boundary question is there, and again, even the External Affairs Minister said about the Aksai Chin, that Aksai Chin is a territory told in the parliament which has been occupied by the China. So let's see if we are able to first get the LAC, and if Chinese would be anytime willing to give the Aksai Chin. I think that is too optimistic of me. That might not happen so soon. Significance of the talk: prolonged strain due to military confrontation, and now we are trying to rebuild this relationship. This is an important step which is being taken. National Security Advisor is traveling, External Affairs Minister also met, and sooner, and Russia is also, Russia definitely wants that the relationship between India, China remains strong. Because to counter West and America, for example, if the Democrats would have come in the power, then Russia would have definitely wanted. Even in terms of Donald Trump coming into power, who is a bit friendly with or the Putin and Donald Trump share a decent relationship. Even in that terms, Putin would definitely want two important friends of the country which Russia has, that is China and India. They should come together and resolve the differences, because Russia, China and India coming together, if we are able to come together, India and Russia is already there, China and Russia is already there. If India and China is able to resolve the differences and come together, even if we are able to resolve 50 to 60% of the differences, RIC, which is part of BRICS also, BRICS will become even powerful. And it's not that it's anti-West, but in terms of the alternatives to the global South will be more. Okay. So in the next important article talks about finance minister asserts Q2 growth blip is temporary. So again, an important news coming from economics. Okay, so let's move to that. So that is finance minister's asserts Q2 growth blip. Now this is again very important. You just remember that the RBI was expected to reduce the repo rate. Okay, reduce the repo rate from 6.5%, say by say 6.5% to 6%, and but that did not happen. And it was expected because a lot of industry experts and the ministers from the government were also expecting, because they wanted more infusion of money into the markets. That did not happen, because RBI is currently stuck between maintaining the inflation or reducing the inflation and having a sustainable high growth rate. So the RBI could not reduce that 6.5% repo rate. They did reduce the cash reserve ratio from 4.5 to 4%, which would be infusing more than 1 lakh crore into the Indian economy. So it's not that the RBI is not thinking, but RBI is also on a tightrope where they need to maintain the inflation in the stipulated numbers and reduce with the current numbers. At the same time, growth has to be there. And there was also pressure on the RBI because the GDP numbers, which when it came for the quarter, it was 5.6%. And when RBI was initially predicting that, our growth for the GDP is around 7.2%. And the last, in the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen a very good growth rate. And one of the growth rate was also around 8.2% after COVID, which can be because of the untamed, energy in the economy which was there, because the markets open and everything come out. So that can be taken as an aberration, but the growth was still happening. So in this context, the finance minister has come and given a very categorical statement and cleared the all air around what is happening in the Indian economy. So obviously we'll also need to see what exactly happens, but this is coming from the government. So if the economy does not work as ma'am is saying, finance minister is saying, Nirmala Sitharaman, so obviously finance minister and the ministry and the government can be questioned. Okay. So in this context, finance minister reassured the nation that the 5.4%, so not 5.6, 5.4% I'm talking about, that the 5.4% GDP growth rate in Q2 of 2024 to 2025 is a temporary slowdown caused by multiple factors, including election dynamics and festival calendar adjustment, that there was overlapping of festivals. And whenever a new government comes, so what happens is that whenever elections is happening, so the government working basically stops in terms of infrastructural projects. So 2-3 months those elections will happen, no new projects will start, and once the government comes, it's again taking 2-3 months to start it. So the growth is because of also of the election, and this is not the first time. Even if we see the previous election data, this has happened. So multiple factors including election dynamics and festival calendar adjustment. She expressed optimism about healthy economic growth in the coming quarters, emphasized that government continued to efforts to manage inflation and push for sustainable growth, and also the angle of that CRR has also been reduced. So we are putting money, we are on the tightrope, and we are also working to reduce the inflation, like core inflation has reduced. So the problem with is that the food inflation, we need to work upon that. Okay. So election and festival calendar adjustment. So conduct of elections and alignment of festivals in financial year created more modest downward bias in spending patterns. And the high spending festival period, Dashera, there was overlap of festivals. And because of this elections festival, the economy could not move the way we want. Global economic challenges. She also said that this is not only happening with India, many countries from China to many other countries are suffering because of it. And not necessarily China might be having its own reason, but these geopolitical tensions, that Russia-Ukraine war or Israel-Iran, Israel-Hamas war, because of this the cost of things have increased, inflation has increased, and obviously this geopolitics and war is definitely has hampered the global economy, and multiple reports talk about it. And many countries might have their own personal reasons because of the growth is not happening, but globally we are seeing this kind of trend. Okay. So again, food inflation management, the government is optimistic about softening food inflation pressures with an expected rise in Kharif crop output. So this is a positive side, that this Kharif crop output would be increased, and this would lead to reduce in prices of basically food items. Buffers are being built for key food items like cereals and pulses, so that the prices are stabilized, and most importantly, stabilized distribution of essentials such as onion, rice, wheat, flour, dal, gram. This is focusing on controlling the food inflation, which is currently hitting the country like anything. So once the food inflation is able to control and we are able to bring down the inflation, then definitely I'm very sure the repo rate would also be reduced by whenever the MPC releases or the MPC is ready to reduce the benchmark things. Okay, so or the RBI reduces that number. So core inflation and decadal growth. So core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy prices. Now here are we stuck. So energy prices obviously is dependent on what is happening globally. But when you talk about food, food is something which we need to control, and that is the last slide which was talking about that our output of the Kharif crops is good. We are working that buffer stock is being created so that prices are stabilized in nature. Okay, optimism for future growth. Historical context, India's GDP growth averaged 8.3% over the past 3 years, cementing its position as the fastest growing major economy globally. Out of 12 quarters in the last 3 years, GDP growth was only 5%, only twice, showing sustainable economic strength. So this is what I am also talking about, and this is also what has come in the news, that we have sustained growth, but this aberration of around less than 6% or less than 5.5% has happened twice, and that is what finance minister is telling, that these numbers are an aberration. In the coming quarters or coming years, the numbers will pick up again, and we need to be patient, and this is a blip which has happened. So, and there are factors which are associated with it. So that's her statement on this, and she's given a historical context, and she is also saying that union government is focusing on capital expenditure, infrastructure creation. So capital expenditure has grown by 6.4%. One of the reason which has come is that the government is spending very less. Generally, the government spending reduces whenever it is an election year. But after 4 or 5 months, the expenditure and the government spending increases. So in the next quarter, the numbers should increase. That is what everyone is also expecting. So between July and October 2024, signaling robust investment in infrastructure development project. The union budget's implementation began in mid August 2024, aligning with timeline of parliamentary polls, and similar patterns were observed in previous. So this is what happened. So when the elections happen, the things will then, for example, the elections happen the mid of in this May, June, okay. Then the new government comes. Then it will take 3-4 months. So it's around October and November. Then the entire push should come. So the numbers of the coming quarters or the remaining half of the year would be very important. Whatever has been in terms of number I'm talking. So whatever the remaining half or the months which are left, those should show the numbers, better numbers. That is what ma'am is talking about in a crux. Okay, so generalized slowdown, not expected slowdown is manufacturing is limited to specific segments, and she's saying that half of 23 manufacturing sectors in IIP are showing good numbers, remain strong. Broader economic stability, Finance Minister highlighted need to view quarter two numbers in a broader context, dismissing predictions of long-term downturn based on single quarter data. So it's very, I think I'll agree with this, that on the basis of single quarter data, you cannot say that the entire economy is coming down, there is a sluggish movement. But major problem which is there, which she is not talking about, is that the inflation has increased, but the wages of people have not increased, and profit of companies have also increased. So the higher management of the company's top bosses, they are making money, profits have increased, inflation has increased, but wages are not increasing. When wages are not increasing, obviously you will not spend money in the economy. You will try to save whatever it is left. If after inflation you are able to save anything, you will not spend. When you don't spend, obviously when the spending reduces, the sluggish economy will also come. That is also what she needs also to talk about, which is also a very major problem which is happening. Okay. So government remains confident of Q2 growth blip will give way to healthy growth in subsequent quarters, driven by sustained investment, improving consumer demand and proactive measures to manage inflation. So sustained investment is being done, and food inflation or eventually should be controlled. Once it is controlled, more money would be pumped through, probably through reducing the repo rate. That should happen. And again, the focus is on proactive measures. So these are good statements. This is a good statement given by the finance minister of the country, but we'll want to see what is the real implementation, and time will tell what is the real implementation of this. Okay. So before I move forward, so integrated GS and CSAT program is starting on 6th January 2025. This is specifically for prelims. The offline, it is in Bangalore, online is across India, and you will get everything from modern India, geography, all history and art and culture, polity, science and tech, economy, international relations and environment. All this would be covered in this batch. And the orientation session of 6th Jan, you can call on the previous number which was shared for the OGP batch for all details, or you can also scan this QR code for all details. Okay, now let's move to the next important news, that is nations open embassies engage with Syria's new rulers after Assad out. So again, Syria is changing, and the Americans and Europeans are hopeful again. But I would say that this group HTS, which they are relying so much, this person who is handling this group, Abu Julani, he used to be former lieutenant of Baghdadi, who was the head of ISIS. And the flag they are having, the flag this team is having, so it was coming the television that, in the news, that the flag symbol is the same one which ISIS or Al Qaeda used to use. So again, I'm not very sure what they are planning, and I don't even believe in the rhetoric of HDS and terror groups. Even Taliban used to talk all about this, but if you see, HDS is talking about that we will be talking, the minority will be taking care of the rights of minorities and everything. Even Bangladesh used to talk about it. Muhammad Yunus was talking about it, and they are not even a terror group. Okay. So it's very difficult to rely. I think Europe and the Americans might be too hopeful, but they need to be very cautiously optimistic about HTS. Syrians are returning back, and I hope that this group eventually gives power to the diplomat or to a elected government. But they themselves say that their leader was saying that over a period of years we have the experience. So when they want to, that they have experience, they don't want to be elected, they want to be selected, something like which has happened in Bangladesh. But at least Bangladesh situation is far better than what is happening in Syria. But in Syria, the Americans and Europeans too happy about it. Please be cautiously optimistic. You don't even know what this group is, because, or even if you know, then you are not, checking all the check boxes, because ticking all the check boxes. This group used to be the affiliated group of Al Qaeda in Syria, which is called Al Sunra. Okay, Al Nusra. Okay, Al Nusra. So Syrian new rulers are engaging with countries that previously ousted President Bashar al-Assad. Diplomatic ties are being restored as nations reopen embassies and initiate talks with Syria new leadership. signaling a potential shift in country's political and international standing. So things are changing. People are going to Syria. Countries are trying to reestablish, and obviously for Europe, the Syria, since Syria is very near to them, it's very important. Israel, Israel from the point of view, Israel sharing borders and everything. Israel is bombarding Syria like anything. It is, on the, and probably taken some area of the buffer zone. They have also put an earthquake bomb. So do you think Israel bombing Syria is correct? So if you see, it is absolutely not correct, but Israel is doing because Israel can do it. Okay. India should be very cautious about having an embassy in Syria. Human rights always go for a toss in Islamic extremist countries. Yes, yes, yes. And we were, India and Israel, Syria's relationship was improving. I think I had covered that news in Daily Decodes. Business strengthening was happening, but again, the problem has come. They have gone out. So Bashar al-Assad departure, we have talked about it, that he took his plane and flew. Swift offensive led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. His forces abandoned tanks and equipment and marking dramatic shift in the control. HTS, rooted in Syria's branch of Al-Qaeda, is designated as a terrorist organization by many Western countries. But despite its history, now these European countries are changing their stand and their thought process. HTS has a moderate and a rhetoric pledge to, this is a rhetoric. That is what they are saying. It will be done or not, that's a very different thing, and that is what the student in the comment section is also saying, that we need to be very wary about them and very cautious about them to protect religious minorities and gaming limited acceptance. So this European Union and Europe, which is jumping like anything, please keep your joy in traction or keep your joy in limited, otherwise the problems might come. Also, sir, do people in countries like Syria and Afghanistan really want such terror groups in power? Bhuvan, actually, if you see the example of Syria, Syria has been in turmoil. What worse can happen? Now, most of these people used to hate Bashar al-Assad and that famous prison, Syria prison, something like that, in which they used to feed all these people. Anyone who said anything against Bashar al-Assad, they used to be killed. And Bashar al-Assad has made so much of illegal money. His brothers and sisters used to sell drugs. So he was a dictator only. So after dictator, this group has come. So people think that they have removed the dictator, they might be good. So they are hopeful, because the previous one was also very pathetic and worse only. So one has gone, the new has come, and they are hopeful. Now how is this will help? Only time will tell. And Syria has been crisis for a long period of time. So now they have become hopeful that this rebel group, which is backed by Turkey and Americans and Europeans, are coming, things might improve. And right now this leader Abu Julani, most of the civilians are able to meet him. So his intentions seems to be good, but what actually he will do, only time will tell. Okay, so European EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja calls constructive talks with the new leadership, and she described development as a very important step towards stabilizing the region. So this is coming from the European Union. So again, they are also very helpful. Now let's go to the next one. France is, for the first time in over a decade, France raised flag at its early embassy in Damascus. France commitment to standing with Syria during the transitional period. So France is also supporting. Turkey and Qatar, both nations long-time supporters of the anti. So Turkey though was behind the Syrian rebels, so they will support only. United States and United Kingdom official from both countries initiated communication with the new rulers also. Okay, with the new rulers. So all these countries are coming, and UN and United Nations humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher is saying that he is also expressing optimism. Basically, when US expresses optimism, United Nations, Europe, everyone expresses optimism. So there is a basis for ambitious scaling up of vital humanitarian support. European engagement, German diplomats are coming to Damascus. Prime Minister of Italia, Giorgia Meloni, announced readiness to engage with the new leadership. So a terrorist group now, since America is changing the stand, and I told you long time back also, when the HTS was claiming, and when HTS was moving from, Aleppo to Homs to Hama to Damascus, all they were taking, and Turkey was backing it. I told you in the lecture that this must be through the backing of the Americans. Otherwise, Turkey does not have the strength that they can take some action without the concurrence of Americans. But Turkey is a NATO member, and see all the countries, this was a major game plan planned by Turkey, America, and probably even Israel was behind it, and they have been very successful in implementing this plan also. Okay. So implication for Syria's transition, significant shift for isolation. Syria faced under Assad. Okay, diplomatic engagement and humanitarian support should come. And the controversial history raises question about, like, this is basically talking about, there's a controversial history of HTS. Today they are trying to change the rhetoric. Only time will tell what happens in Syria. And second important thing is that we need to be very cautious about them. So in UPSC prelims impact, the important information today is shadow fleet. This word comes again and again. So what UK has done, UK government has announced sanctions on 20 Russian ships which has alleged are part of the shadow fleet carrying Russian oil. So these are basically illegal ships, or these are like ghost ships or shadow fleet, which consist of vessels operate secretly to avoid detection and regulation. So even if they are caught, they basically say that, our papers are through this, all illegal papers they have. So Russia is using these ships to send oil and gas to different places because of the sanctions which has been put against Russia. Similarly, sanctions were also against Iran and Venezuela. They also use this shadow fleet. So these ships often engage in activities that violate international sanction, such as transporting oil from sanctioned countries like Iran, Venezuela or Russia, which are not allowed. So Russia uses this. Recently, you might have heard of this news also, that Russian tanker, it was broken in half, okay, in the sea. Why this happened? Because all these tankers are very, very old. Okay, these are very old tankers, very old ships, and that is why this happened. And obviously Russia would not be spending money on these, because they might feel that we spend and the Americans or UK or any of the countries are able to catch it. There would be not only the loss of oil and gas or what it is carrying, but the ship also, that would be apprehended. So that is why these ships are being used by Russia, which are very old, and that is why that news came that Russian ship in between, I think I forgot the name of the sea where it happened, Baltic it was, I think it was Baltic, maybe, if I'm correct. Let me just tell you which was, is it? It was on the coast of Kutch, Black Sea. No, okay, it was happening at Black Sea, not Baltic. It was Black Sea. It happened. Okay, so again, this is your shadow fleet. You need to know about this term. So let's move to today's editorial. A very important editorial has come. Stuck in the classroom, student teachers NEP 2020. So let's move towards the editorial. Okay, so Indian students in higher education under national education policy spend significantly more time in classrooms compared to their counterparts in the European Union and North America. So that despite the quality of education remains subpar due to imbalance in the classroom hours, the number of courses and the overall approach to learning. First of all, we have increased the number of hours are in the class are high. When the number of hours in a class are high, the major problem which comes is that the student will not get time for revision and self-improvement and self-learning. That's the first problem. Second is that when the number of hours are increased, it is more of passive learning. So a teacher will come, he will tell you something X, Y, Z or whatever he wants to tell. So you are passively sitting and learning. For example, if the class is of 6 hours, 8 hours or whatever it is, 4 hours or 5 hours, then the student also needs time to work on the assignments. Now, since these subjects have increased, student focus and MCQ based questions are coming, student will also not get detailed assignment. For example, if he just needed to do 3 subjects, better assignments can be given to him, more research based assignments needs to be given. But since now he has to also clear 4 subjects or 5 subjects, so teachers and the professors are also focusing on, trying to make him clear the examination, and this will only focus on rote learning. So when this NEP came, we were against rote learning, but the current method of multiple, subjects being increased in the semester, this will only focusing on rote learning. Self-improvement will happen less, and more burden will be created on the teachers and professors, because the focus would be creating more of these tests. And earlier it used to happen from the central universities, but now the burden has been put on them. So even after increasing the, more time in the classroom, quality of education remains subpar, and that is what author talks about in this uh, editorial. So EU North America, students take 4 courses semester with 3 hours lecture. So in European Union or EU and North America, how much? 4 courses per semester with 3 hours of lecture per course. So 3 hours of lecture per course, totaling 12 hours of classroom. 12 hours of classroom. So 12 hours of classroom in a week they are talking about, and in India it is around 20 hours of classroom. So under the new 4-year undergraduate program, students take 5 courses per semester. 5 courses per semester with 4 hours of lectures, with 4 hours. So they have 4 courses, 3 hours. We have 5 courses with 4 hours, and that is becomes your 20 hours of classroom time. Now when this you talk about this extra 8 hours leaves limited time for self-study, and self-study is very important. You guys are studying for civil services examination. You tell me that self-study is important or not, right? You tell me the self-study is important. You watch lectures online, offline, and then you want to do your self-study, because if you don't do self-study, you will not learn. It will not get, in a class you are coming, you are understanding the concepts, but the revision is very important too, so that you imbibe or inculcate whatever you've learned, thoroughly with your brains and for your cognitive abilities. So study. So reading or assignment leading to exhaustion and reducing learning outcomes. So obviously this will happen because your focus is on just completing the classes. So earlier 3-year graduate programs with fewer courses allowed for diverse assessment, term papers, reflective essays. So I am not also in favor of the 3-year, because there were a lot of problem with the 3-year program, and what happens in our universities, which I also very well know, that how professors and assignments are given. So not totally agreeing with this. We also need to realize 4-year is a good program, but we need to work out the discrepancies. What is happening in the 3-year program? Everybody knows that the professors only used to tell, take this 10 years and you will pass through them. And the research and everything used to happen at top institutions. Now, the other institutions also need to work upon, but just going to the previous method will not help. So increased classroom time is a correct thing. Restrict students to 2 assessment per course, favoring easier to grade like MCQs and over in-depth reflective assignment. This is a correct thing, that we would be giving them MCQs to pass rather than the assignments, because when you give deeper assignments, the students needs to go in deep, understand, read a lot of books and come. Compared to MCQ, for example, difference between, like we'll talk about prelims and mains. Now mains requires a lot of in-depth understanding. I am not saying prelims does not require, but prelims approach is very different compared to your mains. Mains, once you go there, you have to write in depth and the understanding, answer writing. So that is what it is talking about. Obviously, I'm not exactly comparing this with UPSC examination, because here prelims is also very complex examination in terms of remembering so much of data, information, concepts, not necessarily data, but in terms of concepts and clarity of thought process, and then that concepts clarity you have to write in an exam. So that even takes a lot of effort from the student. Same is out here in terms of reflective assignments. So I'm just trying to make some parallels so that you can understand. Okay. So promotes this, obviously if you continue with these high number of classes, rote learning would be promoted, critical and reflective thinking cannot come, sustains the outdated model to an extent, yes, that will happen, reduces the time for explosive cross-disciplinary learning group. For example, if you want to do extracurriculars, if you want to do, for example, we are talking about interdisciplinary learning, but if you're already stuck with your so many classes of your own subject, how the interdisciplinary or other cross-disciplinary learning will happen? That is very difficult to do. So it hinders the student ability to take ownership of their learning through reflective and hands-on academic engagement, because they would only be working or completing the classes. That should be the focus. And if the credits are being given on the basis of attending classes, then though it's even worse, because then the classes, because the teachers will say that if we remove that, nobody would be coming to classes. So let's see what eventually comes out of this. So continuous assessment and opportunity. So importance of continuous assessment, NEP 2020 emphasizes continuous assessment with 3 to 4 components spread across the semester, and this will benefit in mix of low and high stakes assessment, opportunities for tailored assessments. Now tailored assessment as per the student, very important. Feedback loops for faculty and students to adjust. Feedback loop not only for student also, but also for the faculty. Also, focus on open communication is highly lacking in Indian education. Absolutely correct. Extracurriculars are non-existent in Indian yes, yes, yes. Except some universities, like I was from Delhi University, lot of extracurriculars used to happen in DU. So some universities you can talk about, but most of the engineering colleges, which are not top engineering colleges, there is hardly any extracurriculars. The focus is not, and if there is no extracurricular, overall development of personality does not happen, and which later on hampers in the interview stages, when the placement comes. So increased classroom time limits faculty capacity also, because to design and administer diverse assessment, because their focus would be completing classes, taking more classes. So how would you come with diverse assessments? Focus shift to easy to grade methods, undermining intent to continuous effort and learning. So this changes. Easy to grade method undermining the intent to continuous effort and learning does not happen. So impacts on faculty, reduced time for professional growth. Faculty in India, we face teaching load has been increased 14 to 16 hours, and compared to EU and North America, it is 9 hours. So obviously the quality of the teaching faculty would also be reduced. Time taken for research, course revision, collaboration is compromised. Quality of teaching compromises, development of innovative interdisciplinary courses, everything will be compromised. If the teacher is also busy in completing classes, student is also busy in just taking classes, how will the creativity come? How will the open communication come? How will the extracurricular come? How will the cross disciplinary come? How will the feedback come? Because focus is just coming and completing the classes. So some of these points are really very valid in nature. Okay. So institutional variations, obviously, if you take IIT and IIMs have lighter teaching loads, 8 hours weekly. And we know what is the quality of IITs and IIMs. The quality of IITs and IIMs is not less. Okay. So the bulk of Indian HE, that is higher education institution, relies on public universities where teaching loads are higher and resources are limited. This is also a problem. And one more thing which I want to add is that there is no focus on research and development, and no fund is coming for research. Most of the researchers cut, copy, paste, which students buy from the market, or the professor who has done research, just he wants his student to do research in that only. This is also a major problem, because student wants to do in something, some other subject, the professor is not available, and professor, if he takes you as a student, he will also need to help you with this. He is not bothered. He said, I have done PhD in this, or in this subject I have, you also come and join me. So a lot of problem with professors and faculty is also there. There's a very adamant attitude of the faculty and professors when a student wants to go for research. So research and development needs to be focused. Government needs to put more money into this also. So NEP 2020 and future of Indian education, course design, selection of reading, material assessment, grading was previously centralized under affiliating universities. Now now this work, now faculty at public universities bear the brunt. Now he was talking about that the self-assessment needs to be done, and more devolution should happen, that the professor can decide on the basis. Now when the central universities has given this work, now they say the burden has increased. Obviously burden has increased because teachers are taking more classes. So some part it's right, some part obviously it can be questioned also, because if you want a tailored assessment, don't you want that the additional, I mean to say, course design, selection of reading materials should be done by the person who has done. So again, a dichotomy or irony is existing out here. Okay, because this is again being written from the point of view of professor, so what he says is right, but there are a lot of problems. So reconsideration needed, reducing the number of courses and classroom hours in the new 4-year graduate program. If we reduce the hours, it will go enhancing teaching and learning outcomes, definitely. Aligning Indian higher education with global standards. NEP definitely came with aligning with the global higher education, so this is also correct. Moving away from rote learning and fostering self-learning skill. This was the focus of NEP new education policy, again correct. Preparing student for higher level education and global competitiveness, again very correct. This should be definitely the focus, there is no doubt about that. Okay, so this is a UPSC mains question. You can go through that and write the answers. A lot will be available in the PDF, and you can add your own point. This is related to NEP. NEP is a very important thing. Analyze the impact of increased classroom hours and teaching loads under NEP 2020 on the quality of higher education in India. Suggest measures to align it with global standards. So very important questions, and PDF, if not uploaded now, within 2 to 3 hours, it will be uploaded. Okay, and China, US can achieve great things. So this many great things has come. So China is trying to be very hopeful. Let's see what happens when Trump takes the seat on 20th. In the extra mile, you have the legal gaps in India's unregulated AI surveillance. You can go through it. And ICANN 2.0 every day, Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9:30 a.m. This is also available on the channel. And if you miss Daily Decode, certain important news which you have missed in the past, we are also putting the news related to DDB, that is Daily Decode Bits, which is available on the channel now. And soon we are also coming with a series called Beyond the Headlines. That's a super podcast starting with Vinay sir. And first topic, first podcast related to nepotism would be coming soon. By this Friday, it should come. And also we are starting a series called concept capsules, where we'll be taking important concepts and decoding with you with various faculties which are available, subject matter experts. So all these series are coming on the YouTube channel. So be very lot of good stuff, lot of knowledge and education is coming on the channel. So please do like, share and subscribe the channel, share with your friends, and do press the bell icon. And multiple things are coming which will enlighten your knowledge and definitely simplify your IAS exam, UPSC exam preparation. Thank you very much and Jai Hind. Okay.